Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 and I have a very complicated relationship to say the least. After seeing the film for the first time, I thought it was underwhelming, and honestly I never watched it again. 2 years later, I decided to give it another watch and see if it's still one of my least favorite MCU films or if I learned to appreciate it more. So let's talk about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. James Gunn's follow-up to the amazing Guardians of the Galaxy has won a lot of people over in the last 2 years. Even in 2017, the film still managed to be vastly successful, making over 800 million at the box office. Fans are still a bit split on it for various reasons, but what I want to do today is analyze every aspect of the film on different perspectives, from what I like, what I still like, what I still hate, and what I appreciate more after a rewatch. Let's start with what I still like. First of all, this is the most visually striking movie Marvel has ever made. Actually, forget about Marvel, this could be the most beautiful comic book movie ever made. The color palette is striking, every shot is framed beautifully, the cinematography is enchanting. These are the types of visual you see in some great anime like Akira or in some sci-fi movies like Blade Runner 2049. Not that much in comic book movies. This film determines what Marvel movies can be visually instead of the usual bland visuals we get in some of the big movies. This is so ugly. I truly believe without Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, movies like Thor Ragnarok may not have been as good as they were visually. Even the Russo brothers have been getting better with the visuals after this movie. You could say James Gunn saved Marvel? His directing style is the true standout here. The action sequences are mostly well shot, even better than they were in the first one. The way James Gunn uses slow motion, his movie language, and the way he communicates with the audience with every shot, every music choices, and every piece of dialogue is just amazing. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is hands down the best directed Marvel movie ever. Now, what I still don't like about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Look, I'm a big fan of humor. I watch a lot of comedies and I don't even want my superhero movies to be overly serious. But I have to say, the humor still doesn't land for me in this movie most of the time. I mean, there are a few good ones here and there, don't get me wrong.
You thought Yondu was my actual blood relative?
You look exactly alike.
One's blue!
However, just like Guardians 2 have influenced many Marvel movies visually after it came out, it was also influenced by many Marvel movies that came out before it. This movie came out in the post-Doctor Strange era, when Marvel was afraid of cheesy moments and used to ruin moments with jokes.
Stop.
And I'm naming Doctor Strange and not Ant-Man as an example because I thought Ant-Man knew exactly what it was, and that's why the movie worked for me. Even the first Guardians knew exactly what characters to use for moments of levity after a serious moment. It never felt out of place.
Now I'm standing. You all happy? We're all standing up now. Bunch of jackasses standing in a circle.
Doctor Strange has moments of inconsistency, and sometimes the humor is simply unbearable and doesn't fit.
Books on astral projection.
You're not ready for that.
Try me, Beyonce.
Oh, why? The first Guardian of the Galaxy did not have that problem. Every bit of humor came from the characters and were supposed to enhance your views on them. When Peter Quill realized he needed a distraction for the big blue villain, he chooses the most immature option possible because that's what its character is. He invites Gamora to join in, but she says no because that's what her character would do. Again, humor never feels out of place in the first Guardians. Then in Volume 2, you have moments that aren't supposed to be funny suddenly trying to be funny. My biggest issue with the film is when Nebula finally opens up about her desire. She wants revenge on her sister and her father. She states why she hates them so much. She does it genuinely, the only way a character like Nebula would.
I will tear him apart slowly, piece by peace until he knows some semblance of the profound and unceasing pain I know every single day.
But then it's ruined by a stupid joke.
I was talking about like a pretty necklace.
You know why? Because if they cut away after that speech, it would have been cheesy, and Marvel at the time at least was scared of being cheesy for some reason. They have a fucking tree in this movie, but Nebula being sincere and opening up about her pain is cheesy? What? Don't get me wrong, I'm not against moments of levity. It can be used appropriately and effectively. Look at this scene in Hellboy 2.
I will kill you, Abraham. And anyone else if that is necessary.
Well, then why don't you just start with me, your royal assness?
The humor is fine because it doesn't undercut an emotional moment for the character. It fits because it was set up properly. We saw him getting drunk a few scenes earlier, so when the joke hits, it lands perfectly and fits the narrative of the story. In Doctor Strange, the cape joke undercuts his big moment, the moment he comes to terms with his destiny. That's pretty much the moment he becomes the character we expect him to be. Imagine if the No Man's Land scene in Wonder Woman was followed by a needless joke. Do you see the problem here? There is a perfect video by Just Right titled What Writers Should Learn from Wonder Woman, where they mention the issues with Marvel and how they place their jokes in the movies and how it ruins emotional moments, so check that out.
Look out!
What moments like these signal to me is that the creators don't have confidence in their own story. They're using the joke to distract from the film's dramatic shortcomings.
I'll leave the link down below. Fuck it. They have thousands of subscribers, they don't need me to promote them. I can't even get to 100 subscribers. I don't mind third jokes that much. I never hated that because it shows the team dynamic, showing that these people are just that, people, and people talk like that sometimes.
I have famously huge turds.
The Taserface joke though, that only worked when Rocket was making fun of him because it added to the character of Rocket and how he always feels the need to appear like the biggest asshole in the room because that's how he copes with fear. Fear of losing friends or fear of losing his life. He acts like he doesn't care. That's smart humor. But then they had to overdo it.
Taserface.
Remember when Marvel had a villain problem? If you don't, just watch this movie. The villain here is Ego, the living planet played by Kurt Russell. Or as I like to call him, Ego, the living exposition.
I was afraid it wouldn't take to the soil, but it rooted quickly. And soon, it'll be everywhere.
I hired Yondu to pick you up when your mother passed away. I'm what's called a celestial, sweetheart. Millions of years I learned to control the molecules around me. I grew smarter and stronger. I wanted to experience what it truly meant to be human. Those years ago I had an unceasing impulse to find life, and that is when I came to a profound realization.
Oh my God, shut the fuck up.
This guy is barely a character. His plan is as cliche as it gets. When he's not explaining stuff, he's talking like the true mustache-twirling villain he is.
Who in the hell do you think you are?
He's got no depth whatsoever, and he's supposed to be a god, yet he gets killed by a freaking bomb planted by Baby Groot. He got defeated by fucking Baby Groot. Damn, that's even worse than Yellow Jacket only having an ant as his big kill. Many people won't agree with me, but I don't care, I just have to say it. I did not buy Peter and Yondu father-son relationship. Peter has never had one scene where he talks about Yondu in a good way until after his death. The movies have made it very clear that Peter has always seen Yondu as the guy who abducted him. And even though he realized later that Yondu actually saved his life by not delivering him to Ego, the feeling of a person cannot just go from one point to another in a matter of minutes. We didn't get enough time with Peter and Yondu resolving their conflicts, with Peter accepting him as a father figure. I buy that Peter truly feels bad that Yondu sacrificed his life to save him, but I don't buy that Peter thought of him as a father.
Well, I'll tell you why. Because I was a skinny little kid who could squeeze into places adults couldn't. It made it easier for thieving.
You abducted me, man. You stole me from my home and from my family. You don't give a damn about your terror.
I will say though, that doesn't mean I didn't find Yondu's death emotional. Rewatching it again, I realized how well done his redemption arc was. Yondu's arc, starting with us finding out why he was exiled by the Ravager and ending with him righting his wrongs and being saluted by them because of it, was brilliant from James Gunn. They gave his character depth. At the end of this movie, I could say I knew Yondu. It's weird, but I feel like I know Yondu better than Captain Marvel. That's just how good I thought his arc was in the movie. If you remove the father figure stuff that feels forced in my opinion, and you put Yondu just as a character trying to right his wrongs and regain his honor by giving his life to save someone he cares about, then fine. To me, Yondu may have thought of Peter as his son, but Peter was only realizing that at the end of the movie, and I just don't think he feels the same way, that's all I'm saying.
Oh, you must stop!
Something else that caught my eye on second viewing is definitely the pairing. Look, this movie knows there's no story to make the characters grow around. So what it does, it make it about characters. Like characters arguing and getting over their differences.
We almost died because of your arrogance.
More like because he stole Anulak's battery. You shut up! Don't feel like this. I told you before. I didn't know what was going on. You didn't know because you didn't want to know because I made you rich.
I don't need to tell you what you wanted, obvious. You were the one who wanted to win, and I just wanted to start.
And it works. It works so damn well. You have Yondu and Rocket both tortured by their past, thinking they will never find anyone who cares about them, so they become douchebags who push everyone away. At the end, Rocket becomes a better person now after his experience with Yondu. You have Drax and Mantis who have both communication issues, I guess, so you can't have Drax say offensive words to her without her even being offended because she doesn't get it. It's really funny, and at the end, we see a great new friendship take shape before our eyes, and honestly, it just makes perfect sense.
Gross bug lady is my new friend.
I'm learning many things like I'm a pet and ugly.
Then, of course, Gamora and Nebula who finally get to settle the long-time rivalry set up by their father, Thanos, but this time not with their fists, but with words. Like I said, this is a movie about redemption, arguments and settlements. Differences are settled and everyone at the end get along, but it feels earned because every word spoken felt sincere, and that's something I learned to appreciate even more on my second viewing. Ah shit! I almost forgot about Baby Groot. You know, it's pretty clear that Baby Groot was a big opportunity for Marvel to sell a lot of toys, and to be fair, they probably sold a lot of Baby Groot merch, and I remember being annoyed by that before the release of the film. After the release though, I thought it was just fine, because he was not in the movie that much, but after watching the movie again, I have to say, Baby Groot is way more than just an excuse for baby toys. His character fits well in the themes of the Guardians of the Galaxy. We have seen them formed in the first one, become a small little family of misfits. Now they have to raise a baby tree, a responsibility and experience that will help each of the characters grow. Because this movie is also about parenting. And I love how the opening sequence shows the audience the relationship between Groot and the rest of the Guardians is just a few minutes. Gamora is the loving mother, Peter is the mature dad who cares, Rocket is the extremely controlling parent we all hate to have, and Drax is that uncle you kind of scared of but love regardless because, you know, he cares. Again, it helps humanize these characters even though some of them are raccoons and green aliens. Baby Groot had a purpose and I shall respect him more from now on. In his book Story, Robert McKee said something that crossed my mind while making this video. He stated, "The love of a good story, of terrific characters, and a world driven by your passion, courage, and creative gifts is still not enough. Your goal must be a good story well told." So in brief, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 2 years later, it's still a movie with a terrible plot and an awful villain, but what works the best is the characters in the story and how the story of each of these characters is told, the differences and how they resolve them. And even though this movie still failed to tell a compelling story overall that goes together with the character's journey, my opinion on the film has improved a lot, and I think it will age extremely well. It will never be my favorite MCU film for the specific reason I just mentioned, but that doesn't mean it doesn't hold a special place in my heart either. Because this movie was crafted with love and care, and it shows. I will forever be grateful to the MCU for giving us James Gunn, and I cannot wait for Volume 3. Thank you for watching.